Some examples of temperature conversions. Obviously, the easiest ones are between Kelvin and Celsius. However, we do have to be able to deal with Fahrenheit occasionally because we do sometimes see temperatures expressed in Fahrenheit. If you want to convert a Celsius temperature to Fahrenheit, this is one way you can do this. There are others. I really don't care which one you use as long as you're able to do it on your own efforts. In this first problem, we are going to convert between Fahrenheit to Celsius. So we're going to have to rearrange this equation. All right, I first rewrite this equation. F is equal to 9/5 C plus 32. We want to solve for C. So the first step is we need to subtract from 32 on each side. So we have F minus 32 is equal to 9/5 times C. We want C by itself, so we're going to have to multiply each side by 5/9. And the result is that 5/9 times F minus 32 is equal to our Celsius temperature. Now note the F minus 32 is inside parentheses, so we're going to have to do that first. Now let's tackle this problem. We say C is equal to F minus 32 times 5/9. Substitute in our value. And if we put this into our calculator, again, remembering that we do the part that's inside parentheses first, if we put this into our calculator, we would get the value 160.055. So this is our calculator answer. We want to now worry about Sig Figs. The Sig Fig rule is that we use the same number of decimal places as in the initial temperature. So the original temperature is rounded to the tenths, so we're going to round this answer to the tenths, which means we're going to drop everything to the left of that line, and with that 5 that we're dropping, we need to round up. So our final answer is 160.1 degrees C. Conversion between Kelvin and Celsius. The Kelvin temperature is going to be equal to the Celsius temperature plus 273.15. So if we wanted to solve for the Celsius temperature, we would take the Kelvin temperature and subtract 273.15. Substitute in our values. Get our calculator answer. And now worry about our Sig Figs. Our initial number is rounded to the ones place. So we want to round to the ones place in our converted temperature, which means that we're going to round up. The first number we drop is 8. It's greater than 5. So our final answer is 61 degrees C. The next problem is Celsius to Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit is equal to 9/5 C plus 32. And again, you can do this other ways if you wish. And we do the multiplication here prior to adding 32. And our calculator answer comes out to be 77. Now we look at our significant figures. We see that this initial temperature, the original temperature, is rounded to the tenths place. So in this case, we're going to have to add a 0 so that we have the appropriate number of Sig Figs. And our final answer is 77 degrees F. The next question's a little tricky. We go from Fahrenheit all the way to Kelvin. So we need to go from Fahrenheit to Celsius, and then once we have the Celsius temperature, we can go to the Kelvin temperature. Remember, the equation I derived is that the Celsius temperature is going to be the Fahrenheit minus 32 times 5/9. We want to do the calculation inside the parentheses prior to multiplying by 5, then dividing by 9. So if we do that in our calculator, we end up with a value of 160.0555, repeating, and that's degrees C. I reminded myself that we do not round any of these problems until we get to the end. Once we have the Celsius temperature, we can convert that to Kelvin, because we know that Kelvin is going to equal to the Celsius temperature plus 273.15. So our calculator answer for the Kelvin temperature is 433.205. So we go to our Sig Figs. We see that the initial temperature is rounded to the tenths. So we're going to round this temperature, our resulting temperature, to the tenths. The first number we drop is less than 5, so we just drop all of those digits. And we have our final answer that our Kelvin temperature is 433.2 K. And note, we don't need the little degree sign when we use Kelvin. Okay, for this problem here, we want to go from Kelvin to Celsius and then Celsius to the Fahrenheit. So we know the Celsius temperature will be equal to the Kelvin minus 273.15. Substituting, we get our Celsius temperature is equal to 26.85. We're not going to round until we get to the end. Now we're going to go to Fahrenheit. So our Fahrenheit temperature is 9/5 times our Celsius temperature. And after we do this multiplication, we're going to add the 32 because we remember our order of operations. The calculator answer is then 80.33 degrees F. For Sig Figs, we look to our initial answer. This decimal point indicates that these two zeros are significant. So our new temperature has to be rounded to the ones place. Our first number to be dropped is less than 5, so we round down, and our answer is 80.3 degrees F. This last problem here is Celsius to Kelvin. We know that Kelvin is equal to our Celsius temperature plus 273.15. So we make our substitution. We get a calculator answer of 298.15 K. We look at our Sig Figs. This is rounded to the ones place. So we round this answer